spoiled sister couldn't stand that I was doing well in life, so she spray painted my house. I posted the video online. Parents called me too selfish, but they were left speechless after hearing what the police officer I brought had to say. I am 30 years old, and my younger sister Jennifer is 26. We do not get along, and it is unlikely that we will in the future. I cannot understand why she enjoys causing trouble for me, but her actions this time ended in failure. She has been spoiled by her parents since childhood. I am extremely perplexed about this. My parents used to focus solely on me, but as soon as Jennifer was born, I was sidelined and never regained their attention. Believe me, I truly tried my best. I worked hard to persuade them, but ever since Jennifer was born, I simply had no luck. I excelled in sports and participated in dancing, singing, and acting in school plays, but none of it impressed my parents enough to earn their attention. Everything revolved around Jennifer. It was truly bizarre. This is because in my eyes she did not seem to possess any remarkable talent. I may someday forgive how my parents treated me, but Jennifer was spoiled, cocky, and accustomed to being the center of attention. She could not tolerate anyone else being in the spotlight. Whenever I brought home good news from school, she would find a way to make the day about herself, and my parents allowed it. When I turned 18, during a birthday party my parents threw for me, we received a call from the police. Jennifer was drinking with friends and got caught by the police. While her friends escaped, Jennifer alone was apprehended. I expected my parents to be worried, but in reality she faced no major consequences. The police let her off with a warning. My father, being a police officer, merely scolded her lightly when they brought her home, and no serious punishment followed. Despite ruining my party, this was not her last act of selfishness. When I got my first job at the age of 21, she came home with her boyfriend and announced her engagement to our parents. This was despite the fact that she was only 17 at the time. As a result, what should have been a special day for me turned into a celebration of her engagement instead of my new job. Once again, the spotlight was taken away from me. Personally, I felt that was the last straw. That day I had a heated argument with Jennifer and my parents, who refused to understand my perspective and accused me of being overly sensitive and dramatic. Since then I have not spoken to my parents. They have tried to reach out to me several times, but 9 years have passed and I still have not talked to them. I feel that they love Jennifer far more than they love me. Jennifer has never tried to contact me. She broke off her engagement with her boyfriend just weeks after they got engaged. In the end, her actions were solely to gain attention, so I am glad I did not give her any. It is a good thing for me that she didn't reach out to me. She is a very self-centered person, and I do not want to be involved with her. Even though we have not spoken for 9 years, she might know something about my life. We see each other at family events occasionally. As such, my parents and Jennifer probably know that I am doing well. I currently live in a very nice house and constantly strive for self-improvement. I make an effort to choose and wear high-quality clothing. I do not currently have a family, nor do I plan to have one in the near future. I run my own business and spend all my income on myself. This is something I have been wanting to do for a long time, and I am very excited about it. 2 years ago, when my business became stable, I purchased a new house and moved out of the apartment I had lived in for years. I strictly instructed all my relatives not to share my address with my family, especially Jennifer, but somehow she found out. 6 days ago, in the evening, she suddenly showed up at my house and vandalized it. As I was leaving for a party, I discovered my house walls covered in horrible words sprayed in bright red paint. The walls and windows were covered with even more hateful graffiti. Who could have predicted this would happen? I stood there in shock for several minutes trying to comprehend the scene before me. I thought about calling the police but realized it would be pointless if this was Jennifer's doing. Even if I contacted the police, my father and Jennifer would sweep the incident under the rug, and she would only receive a warning. After understanding what I had seen, I recognized the handwriting as Jennifer's and checked the security camera footage just to be sure. Jennifer was wearing a hoodie, but that hoodie clearly identified her. The moment the camera caught a slight glimpse of her face, I was certain it was her. However, it was obvious that calling the police would be futile. My father would intervene and she would escape accountability. This is based on past experiences, not only from what happened on my 21st birthday, but also from rumors I've heard about her from relatives. It's not uncommon for Jennifer to take advantage of my father's connections. The reason for her behavior is obvious. Her life isn't going well. According to some people, she started a new business a few years ago, but it ended in disastrous failure, leaving her to repay debts, including those from her previous job with help from our parents. My parents did not condone her behavior and she had no other options. Eventually she gave up on everything and turned to drinking and drugs. My father is fully aware of her actions. He knows all about her shady dealings and always helps her cover them up. Whenever she gets into trouble, he always bails her out. Recently it seems that Jennifer has had a hard time accepting the fact that I have been successful. This is especially true since I appeared on the cover of a local magazine, which became a topic of conversation among our relatives. She hasn't matured much since childhood and has rarely accomplished anything on her own, so her weekly parties are no longer something she can brag about. She is also emotionally unstable. For that reason, she felt the need to damage my house and make a statement that I don't deserve the kind of recognition I've been receiving. What I'm about to say might sound cold, but part of the situation Jennifer is facing is self-inflicted. She has never been the type to work hard or dedicate herself to anything. She has always expected things to go well for her naturally, and my parents enabled that behavior. It's only natural that she ended up in this situation. When I saw the footage, I knew reporting it to the police would be pointless. This is because my father would never abandon Jennifer, no matter how difficult the situation. However, despite 9 years of no contact with me, my father chose to direct his anger at me. He wanted to protect the daughter who got into trouble, but unfortunately that daughter was not me, it was Jennifer. After thinking long and hard, I decided to upload the video to social media to see how others would react to my father's actions. I took several photos of the words written on my exterior walls, believed it to be Jennifer's doing, and posted them on social media, though I could not report it to the police. A few hours later, comments began to surge, so I unblocked my family to let them see the post as well. Jennifer messaged me, asking me to delete the post, but I told her I would not comply. She has no authority to force me to do anything, and if she wants to take legal action, it's her responsibility to prove that the person in the video isn't her. If it comes to that, the matter will go to court. The discussion went nowhere, but honestly she has more to lose. Even though she damaged my house and I had to pay for repainting costs, it wasn't a significant issue for me. On the other hand, if she chooses to pursue this legally, I have the funds to cover the costs involved in court. If she wants me to delete my post, she must prove to me that the person in the video isn't her, but she can't do that. This is because the person in the video is undoubtedly her. This placed her in a very difficult position. The issue was no longer limited to her, but also involved my father and others who had been supporting her. She likely never anticipated things would escalate this far. She probably thought that if I reported it to the police, my father would intervene, and everything would be swept under the rug. However, I understand the dynamics of our family very well. This time she picked the wrong person to mess with. As a result, after I sent her a message, she showed no reaction and did not reply for several days. The post remained online, visible to our acquaintances, friends, family, and even family friends. 2 days ago she contacted me again, stating that she was prepared to pay for the repainting costs and just wanted me to call her. She asked me to delete the post, but since the issue wasn't about money for me, I ignored the financial offer and demanded that she acknowledge her actions and publicly apologize. I told her I would only consider deleting the post after she did so. At that moment she began to plead, saying she was ready to apologize directly or in any other way I preferred, but she emphasized that she would not apologize publicly. She argued that a public apology would require her to accept responsibility for her actions, which could risk losing the clients who still supported her. It wasn't clear which clients she was worried about. She is no longer at the forefront of any business. Whenever she is asked questions about her business, she continues to deny everything, but accepting a public apology would only harm her reputation further. However, I did not care about that. I told her that this was what I wanted, and she could either comply or leave the post as it was. For me, it was a very simple choice. After I refused to negotiate, she repeatedly messaged me, trying to persuade me, but I did not feel like responding. A few hours later, my father called me. He pointed out that my post was causing serious damage not only to my sister, but also to her reputation. He stressed that since she values her career, she could not afford to be derailed by such circumstances. Once again, I was strongly urged to take the post down, but I refused, which only brought further disappointment to her. If she had not acted this way towards me in the first place, I wouldn't have felt compelled to post about her actions. Despite her reputation being in jeopardy, my parents chose not to urge Jennifer to apologize publicly. Instead, they harshly reprimanded me over the phone. They accused me of being arrogant in my success, thinking I could act however I pleased and escape the consequences. As I was about to hang up, my mother began to cry and said sadly, "I never thought you would act like this." She admitted that Jennifer and I had been treated differently since childhood, but strongly criticized me for never responding to their attempts to contact me over the past 9 years. She argued that it was unfair for them to be seen as the villains in this situation. They claimed to have changed significantly as people. Ultimately, by refusing to delete the post, my father's reputation was also damaged. This has only caused further tension and friction within our family. I didn't even give my father a chance to show me how much he had changed. Now, I feel somewhat conflicted about the situation, and am deeply troubled about how to navigate this difficult time, especially regarding my relationship with my parents. Despite my father's reputation already being tarnished, I have no intention of deleting the post about my sister. If my father had responded seriously, he could have undoubtedly saved her. The fact that the post further damaged her reputation was an intended outcome, and precisely what I wanted. I have no regrets about not reporting the incident to the police. I am confident in my judgment regarding the type of drugs Jennifer had been using. While I don't fully know the details, it is clear that all of her actions were illegal. It wasn't just about drug dealing, it extended to other unlawful activities as well. If she had been earning money through illegal and dishonest means, that was undoubtedly a significant issue. Furthermore, my father actively helped her conceal such facts. He outwardly pretended to be an honest police officer, but in reality, his actions were far from it. Therefore, there is absolutely no reason for me to delete the post just to protect her reputation. They have repeatedly tried to contact me for legitimate reasons, but I have consistently refused their attempts. After carefully reading the comments on my post, I became convinced that there was no need to delete it. All the criticism my family is currently facing is a result of their own actions. This situation arose because of their behavior, and I am fully aware that I am not the villain in this matter. Even now, days later, the post remains on the internet. The repainting of my house is already complete, and the graffiti has been completely erased. I no longer feel it is worth waiting for my parents or sister to pay me back. and I have come to terms with that aspect of the situation. I have chosen to ignore the repeated text messages sent by my sister and have no other option but to continue doing so. What I truly want is a genuine apology from her. It should be something publicly acknowledged, and until I receive a proper apology from her via email, I have no intention of deleting the post. This is because the post has already been seen by many people and is widely recognized. All my relatives have avoided any contact with Jennifer and my parents. In fact, no one even attempts to speak with them. Most of the people we spend time with have reached out to me and informed me that Jennifer shows no signs of complying with my demands. This indicates that they understand and support my position. To me, these are completely reasonable requests, but they act as if I am demanding something unreasonable from the whole world. It is truly unfortunate, but I am no longer surprised by their behavior. They have consistently acted this way, and I have come to accept that reality over the years. The decision I made 9 years ago to distance myself from them was an excellent choice. They do not deserve to be a part of my life. Additionally, today my parents came to visit me, but they were not alone. The family lawyer accompanied them. Not only my parents, but also my uncle came along, yet despite this, I did not take down the post. After my uncle threatened to file a lawsuit, they showed me the legal documents Jennifer had prepared. This was meant to demonstrate that they were serious about resolving the issue, not just making threats. However, neither the documents nor the presence of their lawyer intimidated me in any way. When I called Jennifer to join us, they made no move and simply sat there. They emphasized that deleting the ridiculous post would give me a chance to avoid a massive lawsuit and urged me to seriously consider it. When I remained silent and unresponsive, my father angrily pounded his fist on my coffee table. This was incredibly upsetting. The table was very expensive, and more importantly, I had no intention of discussing anything with my father. When Jennifer finally arrived, she continued to try to negotiate with me, repeatedly insisting that forgetting about that specific post would save us both a lot of time. However, I refused to delete it. There was no sufficient reason to forgive them, and I could no longer endure the situation. I firmly told them that I had no intention of negotiating. Frankly, I doubt they have the courage to proceed with a lawsuit. This is because if the lawsuit were initiated, it would likely drag them into even bigger problems. Meanwhile, despite my uncle's background as a trained police officer, his attempts to stop Jennifer from angrily trying to punch a hole in my wall proved utterly ineffective. Witnessing Jennifer trying to damage my house wall was an extremely frightening experience. However, what she did next after that incident only made me even angrier. She pulled a large amount of cash out of her wallet, threw it on my coffee table and said, "Let me know if you need more," before walking out. This was unbelievably unpleasant and extremely disrespectful behavior. In light of this incident, I have decided to address the matter through the internet. I am now seriously considering filing a restraining order against my family. I am confident that I have ample grounds to take such a step, especially after today's events. I am convinced that legal action would be highly beneficial. It is extremely important to uncover what truths my family has been hiding. At this point, everyone should understand just how despicable the individuals I am dealing with are. They are truly the worst, and because of that, I am genuinely looking forward to fighting them. I believe you can also understand the wickedness of the individuals I have described through this writing. I was honestly surprised that she would resort to such behavior. Perhaps she is jealous of the clearly superior life I am currently enjoying compared to hers. I am a successful business person while she has been involved in the illegal sale of drugs, and our lifestyles are fundamentally different. She throws parties every weekend, but compared to my fulfilling lifestyle, hers is insignificant, and not everyone praises her actions. When I met my parents again, after the courtroom hearing, they outwardly appeared very friendly, but I couldn't believe such a swift reconciliation could occur. Especially since my father had revealed the shocking fact to my sister that he was going to cut her out of his life. True reconciliation seemed unlikely. I now realize that not giving my parents another chance and following my intuition was the right decision. They are truly people unworthy of respect. When the verdict is handed down, I hope for an outcome unfavorable to them, and it currently seems to be heading in that direction. I am confident in my ability to handle this matter, and prepared to address everything that has happened. I feel great joy that the necessary resolutions have been achieved. I have only recently come to deeply understand how much anger and frustration my family's negative influence has caused me. I am not entirely sure if this approach is the most effective, but at the very least I am facing my emotions head-on, and I take pride in that process and strongly believe in its success. Although legal proceedings were expected to take time, the conclusion came far more quickly than anticipated. Thanks to surveillance footage and the testimonies of many people through social media, my sister's illegal activities were exposed one after another. She was found guilty not only of vandalism but also of long-term drug dealing, ultimately receiving a 4-year prison sentence. My father's involvement in covering up misconduct within the police force was revealed, resulting in the loss of his job. My mother is currently receiving mental support, and her condition is gradually improving. The content I posted received an unexpectedly large response, garnering widespread support as a call out of abuse of power and corruption. Since I hadn't anticipated such developments, I feel that my decision to make the truth public was the right one. Even now, I remain focused on managing my company, and business is thriving. While my relationship with my sister and parents is not yet at a stage of reconciliation, I feel a sense of accomplishment in facing the issues they caused head-on. The company party. My husband's boss humiliated me. "She's just a housewife who shops all day." Everyone laughed. Then the CEO walked in. Actually, she's our biggest investor. My husband's face turned white when he realized I owned 51% of the company. Hi, I'm Jennifer Chin. Growing up, my parents instilled in me the belief that true wealth comes from humility and smart work. While other kids dreamed of being doctors or lawyers, I was captivated by the stock market. By 12, I was devouring investment books and obsessively tracking market trends, much to my parents' bewilderment. Sweetie, maybe you should spend more time with your friends. My mom would suggest eyeing me over stacks of financial reports. This is fun for me, Mom, I'd reply without looking up. Did you know Warren Buffett bought his first stock at 11? She chuckled, shaking her head. Just promise me you won't forget to live while you're planning your empire. That promise grew harder to keep as my hobby turned into a passion and eventually expertise. By 16, I was managing a modest portfolio with my savings and allowance. Winning a full scholarship to study finance at Harvard felt like destiny. At Harvard, I met Michael. He was studying business administration, charming, ambitious, and aiming to climb the corporate ladder. We met during finals week, both reaching for the same economics textbook. Legates first, he said with a warm smile. I laughed. Thanks, I'm Jennifer. Michael? Maybe we could study together. What began as a shared study session blossomed into daily coffee dates, then a relationship. Unlike others I've met, Michael admired my ambition. You're going to dominate the business world, he'd say, watching me dissect market trends. Any company would be lucky to have you. What he didn't know was that I wasn't planning to work for anyone else. My scholarship covered everything, so I funneled my earnings into investments. By graduation, my portfolio had grown exponentially, but I kept it quiet. I wanted success on my terms, not as the girl with the trust fund. Michael landed a prestigious job at Sterling Industries, a major tech firm in Boston, while I chose to work independently. When I declined several high-profile offers, Michael was skeptical. Are you sure? He asked. These are dream opportunities. I have my home plans, I replied with a smile. Trust me. A year later we got married in a modest ceremony. Michael's mother, Patricia, was less than thrilled with my career choice. Investment consulting? She'd sneer. Is that even a real job? I smiled, recalling my parents' advice about staying humble. By then my portfolio was worth over $50 million, strategically diversified and quietly making me one of Sterling's largest individual shareholders. Though no one, not even Michael, knew. Michael thrived at Sterling, rising to the ranks to work under James Wilson, the arrogant VP of operations. Wilson was infamous for his outdated views, especially about women. The problem with modern marriages, he'd say at company events, is women forgetting their place. Michael would laugh awkwardly, avoiding confrontation. It irritated me, but I let it slide until the annual executive party. Sterling was unveiling restructuring plans, and as a key shareholder, I had a vested interest in attending. Are you sure you want to come? Michael asked. These events can be dull for non-employees. I think it's time I took a closer look at your work, I replied, carefully applying my makeup. I chose a classic black dress, pearl earrings, and my grandmother's vintage watch, a talisman in every major decision I've made. The hotel ballroom buzzed with chatter as we arrived. Crystal chandeliers glittered overhead, and the scent of champagne lingered in the air. Michael led me to James Wilson, who was holding Courtney of the bar. Jennifer, Michael James called, raising his glass. We were just discussing Sterling's exciting new direction. Cutting R&D for short-term profits? I asked, feigning innocence. Doesn't innovation drive sustainable growth? James's smile faltered. The little wife has opinions on business, does she? Laughter rippled through the group. Michael shifted uncomfortably. She likes to read the financial news, he said quickly. Honey, maybe we should grab some drinks. But James wasn't done. Sterling's biggest problem, he announced loudly. His too many voices from people who don't understand real business, like housewives who think reading the Wall Street Journal makes them experts. The crowd chuckled, but I noticed the CEO, Thomas Richards, watching with interest. My husband, once so proud of my intelligence, stared at his shoes. Before I could speak, a familiar voice interrupted. Actually, James, you might want to rethink that. Sarah Martinez, my private banker and confidant, stepped forward, her smile sharp. Should I explain, Jennifer, or would you like to? James's smug expression faltered. What's going on here? I straightened, feeling my grandmother's watch against my wrist. The time had come. Since you're so concerned about shareholder value, James, I said, my voice calm. Perhaps we should discuss the report I'm presenting at Monday's board meeting. The one outlining why your restructuring plan will fail. James turned crimson. Board meeting? What are you talking about? CEO Richard stepped forward, his expression thoughtful. Jennifer Chin, JC Holdings? I knew the name sounded familiar. I smiled. Surprise. Strategic anonymity can be a powerful tool. What's going on? Michael whispered, his face pale and voice trembling. Sarah stepped forward, her tongue cutting through the silence. Your wife, she announced to the room, owns 51% of Sterling Industries shares, and no, she doesn't spend her days shopping. The silence hung for a moment before chaos erupted. James Wilson's face turned a vivid red, cycling through shades I didn't know were possible. Michael looked as though he might faint. This is absurd, James sputtered. There must be some mistake. Sarah, ever composed, tapped on her tablet. I can show you the documentation if you'd like. I have all the records right here. CEO Richard stepped forward, a slight smile tugging at the corners of his mouth. That won't be necessary, Sarah. I've suspected as much for some time. The board has been impressed with Mrs. Chen's insights and recommendations for years. James turned to him stunned. You knew? Of course, Richards replied smoothly. Why do you think your restructuring plan hasn't been approved? Mrs. Chen raised significant objections. Michael finally found his voice, though it wavered. Jennifer. How? When? I met his wide-eyed gaze. Perhaps we should continue this conversation somewhere more private, I suggested, glancing at the growing crowd of onlookers. My office is just upstairs, Richards offered. Shall we? The elevator ride was impressively silent. Michael alternated between glancing at me and staring at the floor while James seethed. Sarah, steady as ever, stood by my side, a quiet but unwavering presence. Richard's office was expansive with panoramic views of the Boston skyline. As we took our seats, James immediately claimed the chair nearest Richard's desk as if proximity could restore his authority. Well, Richards began, leaning back in his chair. This has been an eventful evening. Eventful? James exploded. This is outrageous. She can't possibly. She can and does, Sarah interrupted, laying documents on the desk. Jennifer Chen, through carefully managed investment vehicles, controls 51% of Sterling Industries. She's been building her position over the past 5 years. Michael's expression morphed from confusion to hurt. 5 years? But we've been married for 3. I started investing in Sterling before we met, I explained evenly. The company had potential but needed modernization. I saw an opportunity. Modernization? James sneered. Yes, James, I replied calmly. Modernization. Like fostering innovation instead of getting R&D. Like respecting your employees instead of perpetuating a toxic workplace. Richards leaned forward. Mrs. Chen's recommendations have been instrumental in shaping our strategy. Her analysis has consistently outperformed expectations. Michael's voice was barely audible. Why didn't you tell me? I held his gaze. Would it have made a difference? Would you have defended me against James's comments if you'd known I was Sterling's majority shareholder? He flinched, the answer clear without being spoken. This is preposterous, James barked, rising from his chair. I've dedicated 15 years to Sterling. You can't just turn it into a toxic environment where innovation and talent are stifled. I interrupted. James, your restructuring plan would destroy this company. The board won't be supporting it, Richards cut in. In fact, we need to discuss your future with Sterling. My future? James looked stricken. Yes, I said, standing to meet his glare. Your leadership is outdated, your strategies are short-sighted, and your conduct unacceptable. Sterling deserves better. You can't fire me, James shouted. You're just a majority shareholder, Sarah interjected coolly. And yes, she can. Michael remained frozen, his expression unreadable. You told me you were consulting, he murmured. You said it was small scale. I never lied, I said softly. I just didn't tell you everything. Would you have respected my decisions if I had? James erupted again, pointing at Michael. She's tearing us apart. Women like her, that's enough. Richard snapped, his tone sharp. James, you'll receive the details of your separation package tomorrow. Please leave, James stormed out, slamming the door behind him. Sarah excused herself, leaving me alone with Michael and Richards. Mrs. Chen, Richards began. Will you be taking a more active role in the company? Yes, I replied firmly, starting with a comprehensive review of our culture and leadership. Michael finally spoke, his voice cracking. And what about us? I turned to him, my voice steady. That depends. Are you ready to see me as an equal, or am I still just the little wife you asked to stay quiet at company events? I need time, he stammered, standing abruptly. This is all too much. He left and I watched his retreating figure. Richards cleared his throat. Family and business rarely mix well. True, I said, exhaling deeply, but principles shouldn't be compromised. The days that followed were a whirlwind. James's firing made headlines, Sterling Industries, a shakeup at the top. The stock price dipped briefly before recovering as my vision for the company became public. Michael stayed with his parents, processing everything. His mother left a string of hostile voicemails which I deleted without hesitation. My focus remained on transforming Sterling, revitalizing R&D, implementing work-life balance policies, and fostering innovation. A week later, Michael returned. He looked worn, his usual polish replaced by exhaustion. Can we talk? He asked hesitantly. I gestured to the chair across from my desk. He sat, then immediately stood again, pacing nervously. I've been thinking about everything, he began. About us, about work. And I prompted. I was wrong, he admitted, his voice low. I let James and others disrespect you. I should have stood up for you. I was so focused on my career that I forgot what really matters. I watched him for a moment before replying. Change doesn't come through words, Michael. It comes through actions. Are you ready to show me that you see me as your equal? He nodded, determination flickering in his eyes. Yes, I am. I waited silently, giving him space to continue. But you weren't completely honest either, Michael added after a moment. You kept such a huge part of your life hidden from me. How are we supposed to have a real marriage with secrets like that? You're right, I admitted, keeping my voice calm. I should have trusted you with the truth. But Michael, ask yourself, why didn't I feel I could? He sank into the chair, his hands running through his hair. Because I showed you I couldn't be trusted. Every time I laughed at James's jokes, every time I told you to stay quiet, I proved I cared more about office politics than supporting my wife. The next few weeks tested everything, my marriage, my resolve, and my ability to steer Sterling Industries through massive change. James Wilson hadn't gone quietly. He hired a lawyer and threatened to sue for wrongful termination, and his allies within the company whispered behind my back, "She's tearing down our traditions," they muttered in the break room. "This is what happens when you let emotions run a business," others sneered. But facts don't lie. Within a month, employee satisfaction soared by 40%, and R&D, finally free from James's stifling grip, filed 12 patent applications. The stock price climbed steadily, proving that my changes were more than just radical. They were necessary. At home, Michael hovered in a strange limbo, sleeping in the guest room and walking on eggshells around me. His mother, Patricia, however, had no such hesitation. She stormed into our house one afternoon, her designer heels clicking like gunfire. "We need to talk," she announced, barely pausing before stepping into the living room. "By all means," I said dryly, closing the door behind her. "This power trip of yours has gone far enough," she declared, folding her arms. "You've made your point. Now step back and let the men handle business." I raised an eyebrow. "The men? You've humiliated Michael enough already," she snapped. "His colleagues don't know how to treat him anymore. Do you have any idea what this is doing to his career?" "Humiliating?" I repeated. "Like being laughed at during business functions, like being dismissed as just a housewife." "That's different," she waved a manicured hand dismissively. "That's just how business works. Men need to what, Patricia? Undermine women to prop up their egos? Pretend competence doesn't exist if it comes from the wrong gender. You tricked him," she burst out. "My son married you thinking you were a normal wife and no. Now what?" Michael's voice cut through the tension, startling us both. "Michael," Patricia turned to him, her expression softening with relief. "Thank goodness you're here. We need to talk sense into her before she destroys everything." But Michael wasn't looking at her. His eyes were locked on me, filled with something I hadn't seen in weeks, understanding. "Mom," he said evenly, "you need to leave." "What? But?" "Now," he said firmly. After she left, silence settled between us. Michael sank onto the couch, exhaustion etched into his face. "I heard everything," he said quietly, "and I finally realized I've been just like her, treating you like you needed to be managed, not supported. And I'm sorry." I sat down beside him, keeping a cautious distance. "I didn't want to outshine you, Michael. I just wanted your respect as your wife, as a partner, as a person." "You have it," he said softly. "I know I don't deserve your trust right now, but I want to earn it, not because of your money or your power, but because I love you. And I want to be the partner you deserve." My phone buzzed, breaking the moment. It was Sarah. "Jennifer," she said when I answered. "James has withdrawn his lawsuit. Word about Sterling's latest quarterly projections has spread, and they're impressive. Send me the details," I said with a smile. "And Sarah, thank you for everything." When I hung up, Michael asked, "Good news. James is backing down." I confirmed. "It seems success really is the best revenge." Michael nodded thoughtfully. "What happens now with Sterling and with us?" "Sterling will keep evolving," I replied. "We're rolling out a new parental leave policy and launching a mentorship program for women in tech next month." "And us?" he asked, his voice hesitant. I took a deep breath. "That depends. Are you ready for a marriage of equals?" "Really ready. I'd like to try," he said, a small smile tugging at his lips, starting with moving out of the guest room. "If you're okay with that, it's killing my back." I laughed, surprising myself. "We'll need couples counseling and you'll have to stand up to your mother." "Done," he said, grinning. "Though maybe we should have dinner with her next week. I'd love to see her face when you explained your women's leadership initiative." For the first time in weeks, I felt real hope for our future.